I sound really good in my head, but then I sound really crappy on camera. Hey y'all, Benzie Johnson Jr. here, and today I'm reviewing one of the most anticipated new cartoons this fall, Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. This show has a lot to live up to. As the latest entry in a 3 decades plus strong franchise, there have been a lot of hopes and a lot of concerns in the future that this show sets up. I finally got around to watching the new series on Labor Day, so I can finally help you put these rumors to rest. First up though, the pre-hype. The show was announced way back when and previewed after the Kids' Choice Sports Awards back in July. The full series is set to premiere later this month. Press releases from last year dubbed the show as a reimagining of the franchise, turning the bro show into an action comedy, which, for most of us who have been alive in the past few years, immediately brings to mind the haunting ghosts of other action comedies and reimaginations of other popular franchises, most egregiously Teen Titans Go, the 2016 Powerpuff Girls reboot, and the 2017 reboot of Ben 10, all over on Cartoon Network. So the onus was already on Nick from second one not to create such an unmitigated disaster. Though they've been in good standing series-wise, so that should inspire a lot of hope in potential viewers that they won't stuff the franchise up. The second big thing one might have seen in early news on the show was the voice actor roster. A couple names we've seen before. Eric Bauza from Breadwinners and Atomic Puppet, among other gigs, as Splinter, John Cena in yet another new television role of his as new bad guy Baron Draxum, and Ben Schwartz of Parks and Recreation fame, and also technically reprising his role as title character Ninja from Randy Cunningham and Great Name Joe, one could argue. It would be interesting to predict whether or not these familiar faces would change up their voices for the new gig, or if we'd be able to point them out from previous shows. Alright, now here are my knee-jerk thoughts on the first episode. One, you actually can't really tell some of these guys are voices we've heard before. Only just barely can you sense Eric Bauza as Splinter, check the laughs, and John Cena, yeah, him,
John Cena!
as new bad guy Baron Draxum. However, Ben Schwartz's Leo is literally just Randy Cunningham reincarnated.
Okay, well, when he gets here, we'll deal with him. Oh, I see you're doing that whole sinister talking in the third person thing.
I wouldn't have it any other way. The show starts strong, but doesn't necessarily pull its weight initially. Obviously, if you're coming from the 2012 show, you're expecting some action, but the plant-based route is surprisingly missed at first, likely intentionally. These are 4 fun-loving dudes at the start. The personal dynamics are already here from minute 1 though, which saves time, but makes it a little more of a hill to climb introduction-wise. There isn't an immediate rationale as to why anything is happening, which makes the show a tough sell to a viewer. But eventually the show sets itself up as perhaps a bit more daring than its predecessor. These 2 guys come in and you kinda expect them to be Bebop and Rocksteady types, and then, oh there, wait up, where did all this magic come from? We head to a semi-alternate dimension deep underneath the streets of New York, and by now, the show finally has the legs to sustain itself. At least for this episode. Goal 1, save April. Goal 2, I guess find out what the situation with that dog thingy is? Mayhem, as the creature will be dubbed by the end of the episode, doesn't really have a reason to exist, in my opinion. What, they couldn't get Dean Winters? And there's gonna be a heck of a hill ahead to justify that guy's existence. The balance between action and comedy is rocky in this first outing, and not just because as an upstate New Yorker I didn't get the joke about New Jersey.
So, you guys from Jersey?
The problem for me was that coming out of the 2012 Turtles series, which was all action, you're expecting things to work. And a lot of the time here, the action scenes got kind of stuffed up with things not working. Ooh, the weapons broke. Ooh, that thing's malfunctioning. Lol, that's comedy. It didn't annoy me to the extent that I was turned off the show, but coming out of the 2012 show, it felt to me like it was unnecessary. And if they really want to blend action and comedy, I suggest they try a little more at work on the formula. And speaking of the formula, we don't hear the word, but for any decently hardcore Turtles fan, we were also introduced to our good friend Mutagen in this pilot episode. Among the other ways, this series pulls no punches about kicking things off. In an interesting plot twist, Baron Draxum shows interest in training the Turtles, and after this opening round, I would too. but there's ultimately zero play, plot-wise, with how that could have worked. It's an intriguing proposal, and it reveals that Drax wasn't initially set out to be a villain, setting up the machinations to antagonize the Turtles, or so I assume. You don't get this sort of thing out of a lot of shows, so I have to applaud them on including it. And really, care in this stuff is seen a lot in this episode. How Mutagen becomes a threat, spoiler, it's the Turtles' fault this time, so cue the angst fandom. How we meet almost everybody, April and Mayhem excluded, and how the whole world goes kablooey, quite literally. Another positive here is how they managed to handle all the Turtles are different kinds of Turtles thing. Yes, it adds animation design distinction value, but I really thought it was going to be a hindrance to the show. The fact that it didn't even get a mention is honestly really great and minimizes the attack surface on that point, though it makes you wonder why they went through all the fanfare about it in the press releases. However, I've gotta complain about the characterization of Splinter here versus both of the series which immediately preceded this. In the 03 and 12 editions of this show, Splinter is regarded as a revered, wise teacher, training the Trolls and giving them what they need to succeed in their endeavors in life. Here, in the 10 seconds we see him, he's portrayed more as a useless nuisance, a lazy parent who cares more about bum time on the couch than raising the Turtles. Nothing more than an obligatory inclusion for heritage reasons and solely a gag machine intended for comic relief. And I find that to be the biggest ding against this show. Like, come on! Sure, Eric Bauza was Badooz on Breadwinners, but he was also Joey Felt, one half of a Todd puppet. My point is, he's got the chops. This show should have used them. Plus, they really need to put a little more backstory into April O'Neil and Mayhem. They kind of just pop out of nowhere with no real justification. How is she cool with the Trolls? What is the relationship like? It's already clear that they can't just go topside whenever. Visually, it's sort of in that Randy Cunningham, Jonan Vasquez bucket, and that honestly makes it look unique versus many shows out these days which tend to be rounder overall. And of course someone says this is a rebel of cowards. It really works in amping up the action dynamic that has long defined the franchise. Story-wise, this episode was decent, there wasn't any real filler, and the show cut to the chase and didn't look back, for better or for worse. The writing here seems solid enough, the fast-paced rolls with the punches, even when the characters don't, I don't really have anything to complain about in that aspect. A few of the Turtles' voices, while their actors did perfectly fine in their jobs, did kind of leave a grungy taste in my mouth though. Perhaps it was because they're using sort of overtly African-American VAs for the first time on the show on a couple of them, and that'll take a bit of getting used to. For the record, before this comes off as kind of skeevy, Dino 3 kind of sounded fairly racially neutral to me, and I'm not complaining about their casting choices, I'm all for the diversity. It's just different, and it's gonna be a bit before I get used to it. Overall, Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles still has things to prove on its way to becoming a great addition to the ongoing Turtles franchise. It's got a lot to live up to, and it doesn't do that successfully on its initial outing. But from the first episode, it immediately proves itself worthy of a fight, giving few real structural reasons for hardcore followers of the franchise to be concerned. This isn't Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Go, you guys, and making that reference is almost disgracing the quality of this show. Give it a watch, it's pretty good. Thanks for watching, guys. Like, share, and subscribe. I'll keep it sweet on this one, and I'll see you all next time.
You had to ruin Cannonball Day.